next guest is Paul Ingrassia, Communications Director for the NCLU and President Trump's favorite Substack author. Paul, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Chanel.
Well, in that famous Substack platform of yours, in a recent article, you slam the conservative Federalist Society. You wrote, the Supreme Court's attack on free speech proves the Federalist Society can no longer be trusted as an authority for selecting judges in the second Trump administration. So first, Paul, explain to our audience what the Federalist Society is.
Sure, absolutely. And, I wrote this article after the Supreme Court decision came out last week, which was actually written by Amy Coney Barrett and signed on by both Justice Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh. And this was the decision that basically allowed the government to coerce private companies, big tech companies like Twitter and Facebook, to silence conservative voices who spoke out against, for example, election integrity and the vaccine. The dissenting opinion was, a three-judge opinion. This was Clarence Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch. So that was the impetus behind writing this Substack article. Now, the Federalist Society has been long a very powerful organization based out of D.C. They have a lot of chapters at major law schools across the country. They have a very prominent role in selecting judges who Republican presidents nominate to the Supreme Court. Many of your viewers might recall that back in 2016, in order to sort of assuage the nerves of a few conservatives who were wondering if Donald Trump, who was running as a populist sort of insurgent at the time, if he would be a true conservative, he pledged to select judges specifically by a list provided by the Federalist Society. So, they in terms of, conservative legal organizations, they have long been the gold standard. They really haven't had too many challengers. I mean, they're the main pretty much organization that vets judges and that cultivates sort of conservative legal scholarship from the law school level all the way up to the judgeship level. So the reason I wrote that article was because, unfortunately, a lot of their judges, although some of them are very good, a lot of judges, pretty much all the major conservative judges in one form or another have gone through the organization or have been receiving like a Federalist Society stamp of approval. But a lot of their judges also tend to be a little squishy, as we say. They're not true MAGA conservatives. Like, you're seeing in Congress, MAGA conservatives like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of come to the scene in recent years. But you in the judiciary, there's still a little bit of a delay. You're not getting judges who are totally aligned with sort of these, the type of feisty judge that we're going to need in order to assure victories going forward within this new Republican Party that Donald Trump in many ways revitalized and brought from the brink of, oblivion and ruin back in 2016 when he launched this movement.
But Paul, federal judges, they're elected. They usually are immune from the mores of society. They should be, ostensibly, immune from the trendy opinions of the latest political talking point. But they're elected. They don't have to be subject to these very fickle whims. And yet we're seeing this trend of federal judges, even though they seem to have had solid constitutional roots, they get, as you say, squishy as they go along. Why is that? Is that the result of a new social media age, a new media age, or is that just the way we're training lawyers now?
I think, one aspect of it is, lawyers, more than politicians, they get their ideology in law school. It takes many years to cultivate a judge. You're not nominated to a federal bench until you're 40, 50, or 60 years old. So they've kind of been baked in sort of this ideology and this framework for jurisprudence that goes back decades. And a lot of that is now no longer, it's gotten to be outdated in terms of the ideology. It's sort of like the Bush-Reagan sort of perspective that is no longer viable in the Trump era. And then the other side of the coin is, liberal judges have always been activists. They've always deviated from the text and the original meaning of the Constitution. And really all we're asking for as conservatives is for our judges to stick to the text and to interpret the Constitution and laws based on the original intent of the framers, of the people who enacted these laws and the Constitution into policy.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.